Welcome to the County Manager's Report. I'm Lloyd Higuera, and with me is Douglas County Manager Steve Mokrohiski. What are you laughing at?
I don't know, Lloyd. What could I possibly be laughing at?
I don't know. I mean...
Do you have a new microphone that you're using today?
This is my mic. Oh, I guess it isn't my microphone, is it? Oh, my. Oh! I had my Santa hat on. I forgot I had it on.
Merry Christmas, Lloyd.
Merry Christmas to you.
Thank you for doing that.
Every year we have to do something with
It's
the Santa
okay
hat.
to have fun once in a while, right?
Exactly.
That's what my staff tells me.
And you brought the cookies. I mean...
Yes.
Yeah.
Merry Christmas. Happy New Year.
Yeah.
It's been a great 2013 and looking forward to a great 2014.
Actually, your staff bought you this, didn't they? And they make you
we
wear
do
it.
have some Santa hats laying around. Yes, yeah. And so they make me wear it, for the Christmas season. So I had to spread the love.
Yes, and I think it was a good job. Well, let's take a look at the Douglas County Commission meeting. That's what we're here for, actually. And that was the December 19th meeting up at Lake Tahoe. And on the agenda, commissioners did hear a presentation on the sage grouse. It was kind of interesting. U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service is talking about a proposed listing of the greater sage grouse as in a threatened species, I guess you'd say.
Right, under the Federal Endangered Species Act,
Act.
And this is a discussion now that's been going on for quite some time. A lot of discussion about whether or not the sage grouse would be listed as threatened. Of course, there are concerns about anytime you have a species listed as threatened on the Endangered Species Act. There's a lot of uncertainty in terms of what can happen. Is public access to certain lands restricted? What's the impact on things like recreation and tourism and grazing and OHV access and all those kind of things? So Ted Cook, who's the Nevada State Supervisor for the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, came and spoke to our board at the meeting and talked about what has been going on now for almost 10 years. As I understand it, since 2004, there's been a working group that was put together, the Bi-State Sage Grouse Local Area Working Group. They've developed an action plan that came out in 2012. I think many of these measures have been intended to try and be proactive around dealing with this issue. We should say that the sage grouse is a large ground nesting bird that's known for elaborate courtship displays on its breeding grounds. I don't know if you knew that piece
I'll get
of
my hat
information.
back out again.
Yes, this is true, but it's so there's a very involved process. The Endangered Species Act was adopted back by Congress in the 1970s, so Ted Cook presented to the board. We had this discussion. I thought it was a really thoughtful policy debate and discussion on our board. What was in front of them was first just understanding the issue and then looking at submitting comment letters, and we'll talk about that in a minute. But this action plan that's been developed by Fish and Wildlife and this working group is, as they have said, to identify and utilize a special rule that would allow for Nevada and California, this is the bi-stage sage grouse, to have increased flexibility in land management practices intended to benefit the sage grouse, but hopefully still allow for that public access that everyone is concerned about. The way that this works is the Fish and Wildlife Service is petitioned to list a species as endangered. They're either petitioned and or they're sued. And typically that's how now a species will end up on the endangered species list. They've estimated about a $38 million cost to implement this action plan that's been developed to protect the sage grouse. And these would be things like fuels reduction, preserving sagebrush ecosystems, conservation easements, and other things that can all be done. And so, I think everyone universally agrees with, conservation of our critical lands and protecting, these species. The issue is how do we do that without completely shutting off access to these public lands, and that's really where the concern is. So very good discussion, very good debate. We appreciate Ted Cook's time and really thoughtful information that he provided to our board, and I thought that they responded in kind with some thoughtful comments about how to move forward with this issue and make sure that we're being positive and proactive in our approach rather than just saying, no, 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 don't do this. What can we encourage U.S. Fish and Wildlife and others to do to protect this species without having it listed?
Now, and this may be an unfair question, although you probably get back in the backcountry on your bicycle sometimes, but do we have many sage grouse roaming around here in Douglas County?
Greg Lynn, the chairman of our board, who's lived in Douglas County for over 2 decades, I think close to 30 years, I believe, has said he hunts and goes out in the wilderness often, and he said he in 30 years has never seen a sage grouse. Wouldn't know what it looked like other than the pictures that he's seen. And so this is a species that is not does not come in regular contact with people, as we understand it. But challenges there nonetheless. And so we're working on this issue. I think that there's a collaborative effort. I think there's people from various stakeholder groups, from federal and state agencies, local agencies, outdoor recreation and activity groups, and environmental conservation groups that are actively working to try and address the issue.
Yeah, you really would hate to see a lot of the areas closed down, though, because to protect the sage grouse, and I mean, we want to protect them, but how do you enforce that, and how do you determine
well, that's the
what
difficult
areas,
thing. That's exactly, Commissioner Johnson made that comment. He said, so how do you control where
Right.
where these birds are going to go? You can say, okay, this area is we're going to restrict access in this area. What happens if the sage grouse move to another area? How does it? So there are all of I think that's really where the concern is the unintended consequences of any of these actions to restrict or cut off access to certain areas. So that's why we want to take a very thoughtful approach in looking at the issue and making sure the policies and solutions that we come up with are reasonable.
And then attached to that were a couple of letters that they
Right.
asked for. We can talk about those. Commissioners were asked to approve letters of comment on the proposed listing of the threatened species of the greater sage grouse, and also approve a letter commenting on the Forest Service and the BLM. They have done a draft environmental impact statement on this same topic. So it's 2 letters that have to go out. And I
Right.
guess commissioners have to really wrestle with the language. They haven't, it seemed like they were when at the meeting they were talking about, what do we say?
Right, and I think what they concluded was, as opposed to just saying no,
Yeah.
don't list the species, let's be a little more thoughtful in our comments and let's say what we support. We support tourism, we support grazing of livestock, we support ranching, we support recreation, we support OHV access to public lands, we support all of these things. So whatever you do, make sure that those values are incorporated into the action plan and the solutions that are identified. So that was the direction by the board. I think it was very positive. We'll revise the letters and then bring those back for the board to adopt at one of the meetings in January is our anticipation.
Backtracking for a moment, you mentioned that the only way that this comes up is if somebody petitions or sues, and I don't know was this a petition or a lawsuit? Do you know the background on it? And what I was going to ask you was who actually petitioned and or sued?
Yeah, I'm not exactly sure where that originated from. Oftentimes, it will be environmental groups who have concerns. They have they might advocate for wildlife and have a particular concern for the wildlife. They might be advocates for land conservation or restricted access to certain public lands. And one of the concerns raised was, I think generally most people support conservation of critical land habitat as well as wildlife habitat. The issue is how do you do that responsibly without using the Endangered Species Act as a tool simply to restrict. And I think that's where in some cases, and Ted Cook alluded to this, that in some cases, unfortunately, the Endangered Species Act has been used by some groups to pursue agendas that are not specific to actually conserving the wildlife that is the subject of those petitions or lawsuits. So that's really, again, the history of who specifically brought forward this action. I'm not familiar with, but needless to say, we are where we are, and
Right.
going through a process now in the public comment period to make sure that the Douglas County's interests are fairly represented in that public process.
Okay. Well, let's move on here. December 19th meeting of the Douglas County Board of Commissioners, they approved an interlocal agreement with Carson City for a wastewater service for the Clear Creek planned development, and along with that, they also approved sewer line construction by the Clear Creek partners.
And this, we talked about Clear Creek at the last
Right.
meeting, and we sought direction from the board at the last meeting earlier in December on water and wastewater infrastructure improvements. And the sewer agreement was really the easier discussion of the two, because it was a pretty simple solution. We already have an existing contract with Carson City whereby all of the commercial wastewater from North Douglas County, if you know along Topsy Lane and 395, right, and all of those commercial properties, all of that wastewater currently goes to Carson City, and we have a contract with Carson City where those businesses pay Douglas County, and then we pay a fee to Carson City for that. This was an amendment to that agreement with Carson City to then allow the Clear Creek residential development to connect to Carson City, which is right at the border of Douglas and Carson. The cost for Clear Creek is much less than it would have been to connect to Douglas County's system, so it's a benefit to that private development, and I think a benefit to everyone in the area for having them do that. So what we will bring forward at the board meeting, likely in February, will be a development agreement with Clear Creek on the water side, and that's where much more of the discussion happened at the meeting earlier in December, was how do we make sure that this water line connection that currently goes to Jacks Valley Elementary School is continued all the way down to the Montana development, and that Clear Creek pays for that, but the cash flow issues they had there. So all of those issues will be discussed as part of the development agreement that we'll bring forward at a future board meeting. And again, as you recall, the board talked about making sure that all the money funded by the county for that project is reimbursed, with some additional recovery of costs and assurances through a security bond or some other measures that the county has legal recourse if they default on those payments. So again, that was not discussed at this meeting. That'll be at the future meeting, but the issues were tied previously. So this was approved unanimously by the board, the sewer agreement, and then we had, of course, the agreement with Clear Creek themselves to put that infrastructure in.
Yeah. Sure. How does Douglas County actually get involved in this? In that, why couldn't Clear Creek partners just go and ask Carson City and then go ahead and build their, wastewater system and all that?
Well, it's a development project in Douglas County.
Okay.
So because Douglas County is responsible for permitting of that project, they have to meet certain conditions in order to achieve the permit, to get their tentative maps approved and to get the building permits that they need. They need to show that they have water and wastewater, which are obviously two critical public utilities that they need to demonstrate they have those services provided to the lot owners and residences that will go there. So as part of that process, the options were to connect to Douglas County's sewer system, which was cost prohibitive, to build an on-site sewer treatment facility, which is not what we want. It's going the opposite way. We want fewer independent water and sewer systems and more connected, consolidated systems. So that we did not view as a viable option. The other option was to connect to Indian Hills General Improvement District sewer system. That would have been viable, but the costs were significantly higher. The connection fees and the monthly rates significantly higher than Carson City. So that's why the Carson City agreement came forward. And then because Douglas County has an existing agreement with Carson City to connect commercial properties in North County, we were able to just go forward and say, let's amend this existing agreement with Carson City and allow Clear Creek to take advantage of that. The Carson City Board of Supervisors also had to approve this amendment to the existing agreement, which they did on the same day.
Okay. Moving along here, commissioners were asked...
Did I make that as clear as wastewater?
No, you did. Yes. It wasn't,
well, hopefully clearer.
It wasn't murky at all.
Okay,
No, I
right,
could see
good.
right. I could see right where you were going there.
Okay.
Yeah. It's all part of the process, the planning process.
These are
that
complicated
Douglas County-
issues, yes, but it's. I think at the end that this was a very good solution to that wastewater issue, and then the one for people to watch as a follow-up will be the water discussion with Clear Creek that we'll likely have in February. March this year.
Okay. Also on the agenda, commissioners were asked for direction to address concerns expressed by the Tahoe Douglas Fire District during a rehabilitation they did on an existing water tank at the Cave Rock water system. So what's the problem? And
This is a planned project that we have. It's in our ongoing effort to maintain and improve the water systems that are operated by Douglas County at Lake Tahoe. There's an existing water tank, as you mentioned, at Cave Rock water system that needs to be rehabilitated. So we've designed this project. We're putting it out to bid. We do not anticipate that the water service to the county's customers will be impacted. However, the total volume of water that's available for fire suppression will be reduced for the short period of time in which that water tank is being rehabilitated. So the concern from Tahoe Douglas Fire District was, well, for that period of time, which we anticipate is, a month or 2 months of work, I believe actually it was just about a month, 4 to 6 weeks was the estimated time frame for the project. For the period of time that project is going on, the volume of water available for fire suppression is reduced, and so our staff has provided 2 options. One would be to indemnify or hold harmless the fire district from if there was a fire in the area and they didn't have the water volume that they needed to fight that fire, that the county then would be responsible for the costs of fire suppression and damage. The alternative would be to allow for additional temporary water storage tanks. That would come at an increased cost of anywhere from $13,000 to $18,000 for those temporary tanks. The board didn't take action. They heard this discussion. We're going out to bid on the project. We want to see where the project comes in. If there's money within the scope of the project to fund those additional water tanks, it's likely we'll pursue that course. If not, then the board may consider indemnifying the fire district for it. It's important to know that if we indemnify the fire district and there was a major fire that caused millions of dollars in damage, the county has a $50,000 premium that has to be met on our insurance, and then anything over so really the exposure to the county would be $50,000, and then anything over that our insurance would pay for. So anyways, no action on that issue at this time, but it was a good discussion by the board so that they're aware of this project and the impacts.
Well, while they repair the tank, they obviously have to take the water out, so the water would go in the temporary storage tanks and then go back in.
Yes. Well, actually, it's my understanding it would have to be drained from those temporary tanks. It wouldn't actually go.
Oh, it wouldn't go back?
Yeah.
I see. So we lose some water in the deal.
Right. Right.
Yeah, okay. One more item on that agenda, that was commissioners approving changes to the services offered by South Tahoe Refuge service.
And these were some cleanup items that South Tahoe Refuge services, and they're private entity that provides trash collection and recycling services at Lake Tahoe, and we have a franchise agreement with them. They wanted to do some cleanup work, one on their on-call service that they provide. Currently, they have about 500 customers that don't use the weekly service, and there's a cost to that, but currently the regular weekly customers are subsidizing that cost, so they want to clean up that issue and make sure that if they're residents who aren't using the weekly service, that they actually do have to pay the fair share for the service that they're using. They also wanted to make some adjustments to their tote service, the number of bags and collection there. And then the 2-truck service. Some commercial or residential properties may require more trash pickup, and so they were adjusting the rate schedule for the 2-truck service, as well as litter cleaning at stops. If you have somewhere where their trash has flown all over and the crew needs to spend a significant amount of time cleaning that up, that they have the ability to recover those costs. So these are things, they're going through a process now to make these adjustments. They'll come back to the board with further action in the future.
I see. Like the on-call service, that kind of makes sense at Tahoe, doesn't it? Because people don't live there.
Yeah, you have a transient population, a lot of vacation homes, and so people who may not live there during the off-season, and they don't need trash pickup. And so the cost, for the on-call is fairly minimal, but the point was, people should it really is an enterprise service, so you should be paying for what you're using. The regular customer shouldn't have to subsidize that cost.
Okay. That pretty much takes care of the December 19th meeting of the Board of Commissioners. A brand new year is starting, 2014.
Are you hungry, Lloyd? Do you want a cookie?
I'm so tempted, but
Okay.
I have to wait till after the show here.
All right.
But next meeting is going to be a different date because you have to have the meeting on the first Monday or something. And explain all that.
Yeah, actually, the way that it works is in an odd year.
Oh, okay.
It's strange, but the state law says that in an odd year, the first board meeting of the year will be on the first Monday of the year. Well, 2014 is an even year, so that's not required, but it has been generally the practice that first meeting of the year is on a Monday. It also happens that the board meeting was scheduled on January 2nd, which is the day after New Year's, and we just felt like, a lot of people are on vacation, and in order for, make sure that public has good access to the meetings and everything, it'd be better to move it to that Monday. So the board meeting is on Monday, January 6th at 1 p.m. at the historic courthouse in Minden. And of course, the first meeting of the year, we always have the election of the chair and vice chair. So we will have that. We didn't have a regular election of commissioners this year, so it's the same 5 members of our board. Commissioner Greg Lynn has served as the chair for the last year, and Commissioner Doug Johnson has served as the vice chair, and they've done, both of them, an outstanding job in that role. And so the board will, at the beginning of the meeting, take up that election, and we'll see how that goes. We have 5 great individuals on our board, so look forward to working with our next chair and vice chair on the board. And then the sheriff gives an update every year at the beginning of the meeting, first meeting of the year, on the New Year's holiday activities in Douglas County. And of course, we always have New Year's in Lake Tahoe is huge. And so Captain Amamy typically comes and gives sort of an update on how New Year's Eve went, number of arrests, any major incidents. It's a huge gathering of people in a small area. And and then of course, South Lake Tahoe does their snow globe event, and so there's a lot of activities there, so we'll get a good update from the sheriff's office on that. We'll have a discussion about the hazard mitigation plan, and then the Northern Nevada Development Authority is going to talk about our efforts to recruit, retain, and expand businesses in Douglas County. We'll have 2 action items related to Christech Interconnects Incorporated. They're a new business to Douglas County, and they've applied for catalyst funds from the state of Nevada, the Governor's Office of Economic Development. So if they create 50 jobs, which is a requirement to achieve this amount of funding from the state, then they can pursue that. So we'll talk about that issue. And then we have appointments to all of our boards and commissions: 911 Surcharge Advisory Committee, Airport Advisory Committee, Board of Equalization, the Genoa Historic District, Parks and Rec Commission, Planning Commission, Senior Service Advisory Council, the Water Conveyance Advisory Council, Western Nevada Development District, and then the appointments of commissioners and staff to various boards that the county officials sit on. So that's a pretty standard meeting for the first of the year, and look forward to moving into 2014.
And the note that people should remember is that the meeting will take place on Monday, January 6th.
Monday, January 6th.
Regular time, 1 p.m. at
1
the
p.m.
old courthouse. County Administration Building.
You got it.
Yeah.
What do you might even have some leftover cookies.
You might.
Yeah.
You might indeed. Better freeze them though.
Yeah.
So okay, that takes care of the meeting, and we do have a few minutes left here. I thought maybe we could talk about, you as the county manager. I'm sure you had some things during 2013 that you really felt good about. I mean, the accomplishments of Douglas County during the last year.
Yeah, I think we had a good year. It's been a tough 5 years for our community and our local government, as it has for many across the country, and I think we're starting to come out of the tough economic times that we had, and both as an organization and as a community. So a lot of positive trends. We see more businesses relocating, more jobs being created, a reduction in the unemployment rate in Douglas County, which is great. Increase, of course, in the number of jobs. Our tax revenue is starting to stabilize a little bit. We're getting our budget back in balance. This year, the board shifted. We balanced the budget, presented our first balanced budget to the board in 5 years at the first budget hearing. So we were really excited about that. We shifted $1 million, over $1 million of existing property tax funds into road maintenance. We've implemented priority-based budgeting, first county in the country to implement priority-based budgeting, which is now a leading practice for local governments around the nation. We've been invited by the Alliance for Innovation to present at their conference in 2014. We presented at the Nevada League of Cities and Counties Association at the Center for Priority-Based Budgeting conference in Washington, D.C. So we're really excited about our efforts to innovate in the area of budgeting in local government and putting taxpayer resources in the areas of highest priority, not just spreading it across the board equally, but really investing in the areas that are the highest priority to our community and our leaders. We're building a community and senior center.
That's great.
After 40 years of discussion in the Carson Valley, we now are going to have a world-class community and senior center for our residents, and I think it will drive future economic investment in our community, improve the quality of life overall, and so we're excited about that and excited about opening that facility in early 2015. We completed the Genoa Main Street enhancement project, and if you haven't been to downtown Main Street, Genoa, it's just a wonderful experience now. And so we're excited about all these things. 16 years in a row, I didn't mention with our budget, 16 years in a row we've received the Government Finance Officers Association Budget Award. So really good things happen, I think, for Douglas County, for our organization, our community, and we look forward to another great year in 2014.
Okay, well, we had a great 2013 kind of recovery year, and we look forward to 2014 just going straight up.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay.
Thanks for all your time, Lloyd.
Sure.
It's been fun, and look forward to
But I'm not
starting
going to
another
put
year.
the hat on again.
Okay, we'll wait for another year.
Okay.
Merry
Thank you.
Christmas and Happy New Year to everybody.
Okay, well, Steve, I want to thank you for being here, County Manager Steve Mokrohysky on the County Manager's Report. And I'm Lloyd Higuera. We'll see you next time right here on the County Manager's Report.